I'm a lot more unprepared today than I was yesterday to make this video, but I kind of like this state of unpreparedness when I make these videos now. It keeps me on my toes. It exercises this part of my brain that needs to communicate and has actually been neglected. But the future looks like algorithms, AI, and technology, although cool as fuck, will usurp parts of ourselves that we ourselves need to develop. I believe that there's going to be more and more of a push toward technological and biological technological integration in biology. Whether it be like the Neuralink or any other forms of chips. Like I know that Gabin or Steam is going to develop its own biochip. That way we could interface with technology more seamlessly. There's always something grounding about analog. Being able to put a mic to my face and just talk. Having screens. Just being human and not having these things inside of us. Because really, having some form of self-development, and especially in terms of spirituality, um, will help to combat the forces that are usurping your control in the future. I wanted to say that in a more practical way. Our ability to engage with our lower nature, with our ego, our emotions, and dictate our actions will combat how technology can take over or take control of us in the future. So far, people are exposed to these algorithms that push whatever gets the most attention. These algorithms will make you angry, will make you lustful, and will make you depressed for the sake of doing those things so that it could retain attention, so that you pay attention in this attention economy. Our attention is better used to develop consciousness because consciousness allows us to dictate what we do, to feel the urge but not engage with it. We're not just creatures of habit, although habit is how we build and develop ourselves. Negative habits can be destroyed. We're not just creatures of pattern where we follow, or creatures of our lower nature. We don't have to engage with what we feel all the time. Sometimes certain emotions come up that you don't need to feel, that are just reactions, reactive. Sometimes you're more fearful and more egotistical than you are conscious. And you don't necessarily need to engage with certain habits or behaviors that you feel like you need to just because you have the urge. You don't have to look at certain videos, or you don't have to engage with types of content that you don't necessarily need to. But without our ability to step out of ourselves, to kind of externalize our attention and look at ourselves from a third person point of view and look at what's happening, we are locked in the character. That's what an NPC is. Somebody who doesn't have the ability to pop themselves out of the character in this game we're playing and look at the stats, pull up the menu, go like, hey, all right, I have 10 points in music, music production. I can actually gain another point if I do 30 minutes of, production a day. I can gain a point in like each month. Or oh, there's this debuff on me called lust. I have to do this in order to, kind of negate that debuff. I have to probably go for a walk, and that negates the debuff. That brings the timer down on that debuff. And after that debuff is gone, then I can move about my day. You know, people aren't going to look at their lives like that. People just feel, and they dictate their life based off of what they feel. And a lot of times it's fair. A lot of times it's envy. A lot of times it's, just this urge to, engage in video games or pull up a video and scroll on TikTok, or just, you know, knock one out. You don't have to do it. You don't. And developing consciousness is the way to combat that, because you can spot it when it comes up. Now, a lot of technology already exploits our lower nature. The reason why I came up with this idea is because, or the idea for this video is because I was going to go to the bathroom after I woke up this morning, and instinctively I reached for my phone. And what was amazing was that I was able to just realize that and go like, wait a minute, I wanted to brush my teeth and then meditate. I don't want to go down the path of looking at my phone and scrolling. And I was able to do that. And that's consciousness. And there's so much that we are, like, the future is built so much around turning us into these pavlovian slaves. You know, do ringing all the bells and whistles so that we act in a certain way. And that has been the case for a while. Edward Bernays was famous for being able to utilize propaganda in a way in which people just moved. He mastered how to manipulate people's behavioral tendencies and their schemas, their biases, and play into it. And that has only gotten better, whether it be through the frequencies of color or the sounds, certain things that people play into, culture. These have all been min-maxed to control society. We have the tools to combat that. And this is the time to utilize those tools, because things are going to get more and more advanced when it comes to controlling humans. AI will pick up on patterns that humans couldn't. It will utilize the information that we have had, and it will build off of the backs of human development and control us even further, even deeper. Because technology and AI will have the ability to tap into our all of our history online, biometrics, be able to regulate temperature spikes in certain, neurotransmitters and hormones, and be able to dictate and determine what it is that would pacify us, what would enrage us, what would make us sad and depressed. And it's not all doom and gloom if you look at this as a time or as an opportunity to develop oneself through the lens of consciousness, because that has always been available to us. We're not just destined to fall into these patterns where we're animalistic. We don't have to. We can actually develop another side of ourselves that is of higher conscious. And it's time for us to do so, because if we don't, the future is going to look very bleak for the ones who don't. I'm extremely blessed to be able to have this information, and I want to share that with other people, because we need to grow, to evolve. It's kind of high time for us to stop being exploited in certain ways, and also high time for us to also take responsibility for the things that we do in our life that leads to a lower consciousness or leads to problems, which comes from lower consciousness. And like I said in my last video, I'm still just a baby when it comes to developing these things. And you can take all of my words with a grain of salt, because I said that. That is what you should do. It's just being able to talk about it, being able to have the room for discussion also, and being able to say this, maybe spark something in somebody else, either to put a comment under my video, to talk about it, just to think, or, to make videos of their own. We need more content. We need more human content on the internet, because even the internet, even like with VEO, and Timberlake is using AI to make music, and things are just more and more dead. And consciousness will allow us to use our lower nature to create things that are alive. We need to be alive in order to create things that are alive. We can't operate from this place of fear, thinking that, because things are moving in this direction, we're doomed. Yes, we have challenges in the future that we're going to have to deal with, but we are not doomed. And what will assure that even further is us being able to sit down, be with ourselves, learn about ourselves, and generate our consciousness. Mine it out of the ego that is false. It's not real. It's from outside of ourselves. If you're going to have an ego, make sure it's from developing yourself and doing something with yourself, with your consciousness, because then, yeah, your ego's justified. But aside from that, a lot of the things we tell ourselves is going to be false. Like I said in my period, I'm not going to rehash that and whatnot. All I have to say is, developing yourself and your consciousness is going to combat the future that wants to treat you like Pavlov's dog, even more than it already has.